Hey everybody, welcome on what is it? YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Thanks for tuning in. Oh my goodness, y'all, it's been a little crazy today. Today is a wild day, but we're here now. We're gonna get through it. Welcome to the Growing Book Club. I am author Kay Lee, also known as Dr. Crystal Lee, and I am going to be leading the book club with my brother here, Jacob. So if you are new, welcome. If there are some things you are wanting to learn about this club or anything like that, feel free to put it in the comments. And we will do our best to see them all and respond to them all, even if it's after. And yeah, and we'll go from there. So the book we're doing today is called Owls and Cats. And with this book here, it's a new book. So in order to find it, if you're on YouTube and all these other things, then I would recommend that you go to authorkaylee.com. If you're on TikTok Shop, you can click the pin and you can order the book that we're going to read today, which is called Owls and Cats. Okay, that's what it looks like. Owls and Cats. There you go. This is book number 49 to my authorship collection. I'm really excited about this book and I cannot wait to read it. If you're curious about other titles that I've come out with, published, and all that good stuff, feel free to check out my shop. Or you can find 49 other titles in that pin as well on TikTok. And then, of course, at authorkaylee.com, you can find a whole lot more stuff that I do. And you can check that out with the QR codes. I want to make sure I take, let's see, where's that? Okay, cool. All right, cool. Yeah. So you want to go to the Author Kaylee QR at the very top left, and that will take you to the website. If you're on my website, authorklee.com, you can find the digital copies to this book. I don't sell them in on TikTok, but I do sell them in my store. So if you're interested in that, check it out. Also, be sure to like, share, and follow. I do appreciate you. Our goal is to get to 10,000. So if you're popping in, feel free to like and follow us and join and all that good stuff. I appreciate those that join my fan club. That is beyond awesome. But we are not going to keep y'all long today. I know today is a long day for everybody. Me and Jacob had a crazy fair weekend, pretty wild. Let me know if y'all been to the fair this year and how did it go? Because Jacob here had a whole lot of fun yesterday. A little dangerous, if I'm honest. But he had a lot of fun. You want to share any of your elements of fun yesterday?
I mean, overcome some fears yesterday. So I'm proud of myself because they like when you face the fear, be like when you be like, I'm scared of this, but as long as you be trying and everything, you be like, oh yeah, this ain't bad. So you can't really judge a book by its cover, just something they should never tried.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
It does make sense. So I want to encourage you, if there are things that you want to do, or there's people that love and care about you that are wanting to take you out or help you to do something you probably don't do normally, I want to encourage you to allow them to help you to explore things you will learn about yourself. I know he was like, "No, I ain't riding that ride. No, I ain't riding that one either." I'm like, "Jay, you got a band. Use your band." He was like, "Okay, I'm gonna use it." Then he did stuff that he thought was safe, and that turned out to be dangerous too. So sometimes even the things that you think is safe may not always be safe. So go ahead and not be afraid and embrace yourself, embrace your crown, embrace who you are, and see what you can accomplish. Because sometimes you'll never know unless you try. All right. So this book here is Owls and Cats. So this is what we're reading today. I'll read the back and then I'll let Jacob read the first section for us, and then we'll alternate until we get through this book. Ideally, we'll be done with this book in about by 8:30. So we will be ending on our normal time. We normally start between 7 or 7:30, just depending on the type of book. Starting in the month of September, we will be doing another chapter book. So if you're wondering to know what that looks like, I'll have some more details about that next week on what book we're going to feature for the month of September. So that way, if you want to order it,
Embrace Your Crown, the other one.
you want to do the other Embrace Your Crown book, well, y'all let me know.
I gotta look through your store though now.
So the next book in the Embrace Your Crown series is How to Overcome Unbelief. A lot of times the people think that they don't have something and that's why they're struggling, or they don't have what they want or need, and etc. But we find that sometimes it's you don't believe in actually achieving what you set out to do. So you pray for something, but you don't believe it'll happen for you. You see it happen in other people's lives, and maybe it makes you bitter, or some of the other colorful words we can come up with. but it is not necessarily pushing you in the right direction. So I wanted to show you that in that book, the first thing in that, or the first chapter section, really, it's not even a chapter, but it's entitled, You Don't Need Magic, You Need Power. So if you don't feel like you have power to change your life or power to do something you really want to do, I want to encourage you with this book. It's the second book in the series. So we may do that book, but there are other books in my shop. So if you're interested in those, let us know. If it's not a book that I've already done this year, then I will definitely consider it as well. All right. So this is Owls and Cats, and the back of it reads as follows. It says, a seemingly good partnership between owls and cats goes sour when the cats break the agreement. How many of y'all made agreements with people and the other people basically violated the agreement, and what could have been a good thing turned out to be not so good? The owls are forced to retreat, rebuild, and learn to work together. They had to return to what made them great if they had any hopes of surviving. Sometimes in order for us to move forward, we have to go back to what we were doing before. Sometimes we think that easier is better, but easier is not always better if it now rendered you helpless to be able to achieve what you had before. Better should be able to make you do something you were already doing easier, which could easily equate better. But if now it handicaps you to where you can't do what you used to do before, and now when you need it you can't perform, then I would dare to say it didn't really make your life necessarily better, but it really kind of handicaps us in the long run. So that's what the wise owl is telling the younger owls in this book, which of course represents humanity. It represents people. It represents cultures and countries. Yes, we can go to the grocery store and grab our stuff now because that's the way we do things. But what if we don't have those options anymore? Do you know how to survive? Like, do you have the mentality to be able to go after it and achieve it and make it happen? Or would you be like many who are not able to honestly survive if it's not situated in the conveniences we're used to living in? And so I want to encourage you today that not everybody has what you have, we have. And in that sense, some other countries are producing talent that can do things we can't do because we no longer have an understanding that we used to have. And so, we hear things like make America great again and stuff like that. Yes, there's a lot of loose ideals we can come up with to make that make sense. But I would say one that could be applicable to any and everybody is that before we understood the fundamentals of how something worked. Now, many of us don't know how stuff work, but we'll complain about how things are not working, but we don't even know the fundamentals of how to make it work better. And so this book is meant to relay many topics, not just about clearly animals, but also about social issues, about, I wouldn't necessarily say political because I wouldn't go that far, but I would say definitely social and emotional things that we now need to teach our children on how to do, is how to process information. A lot of children now, if you tell them no, or if they get something wrong, or they fail, or they don't win, they'll stomp off the yard and they'll be crying and they won't try. And I'm not saying this to judge anyone's parenting. I even see it in my sons, and I'm like, yo, y'all can't be like this. When we were growing up, like, a lot of things were different. And I'm not saying that this generation is worse than another one. That's not what I'm saying. I would say that you don't want to build this generation to not understand where they come from, because then they'll repeat what they don't know. There's a saying too that talks about how, like what is it? It says a person who had to learn to deal with nothing turns to be resourceful. One who learned to be resourceful, they tend to want to over provide for their children so they don't have to go through, but then they end up handicapping their children, and now they don't have the understanding of how to be resourceful because they never had to be. So then it's kind of like how we can kind of handicap people. No matter how much money or how little money we have to understand the value of learning, comprehension, and being able to be resilient no matter where you're starting off in life, because it could be necessary. Stock markets crash all the time, and all kinds of crazy things happen in life. And you don't want that to dictate how you value yourself or value your life in general, or other people's lives for that matter. But okay, I know I'm saying a whole lot of stuff, but we're going to read this book, okay? Just so y'all know. This book is inspired by the Hebrew or the Jewish story in the Bible. So if you see some parallels in this book, it's highly intentional. And it's to show us how, Yah or God can be applicable into our everyday lives. And I show you how He has gifted me to do it in this book. All right. So yeah, here we go. And we will be sure to show y'all the graphics, because the graphics in this book is pretty wild. So there are 12 owls, which represents the 12 tribes of Israel. So if you're wondering why 12 owls, things like that, I want to let you know that's the point of that. And yeah, okay.
So creative.
So yeah, so we're starting on. Yeah. Okay, so this is page 3, y'all. So I opened up every book with a full cover graphic inside the book. And yes, my graphics were designed. I do use, um, for certain things that I need to have a specific look, like a colored owl, which of course doesn't exist in real life. But in order for you to tell the difference between the tribes, I had to make the owls have different colors, which of course is not natural. So these graphics are embellished, but none of my writing is AI generated, but my graphics are embellished using other digital platforms, just so you know.
It'd be crazy if you like, I create all the pictures.
No, Crystal is not a drawer, okay? I stick to my lane, which is writing.
Long ago, there was a family of owls who had love and friendship. Their family was large and comprised of 12 brothers and sisters. The children were connected and they made a pact always to be a close family. Although they didn't look the same, they saw each other's differences and they thought this was by God's design. They hunted together, played together, and their children were close. The family made beautiful babies of vibrant colors because of their uniquenesses. Life was going great for them in the forest until one day they had a visitor.
Now, I'm pretty sure
Right.
you may all know that in the Hebrew story, there are 12 tribes. Of course, they were all men, but in this particular case, I am including men and women. Another thing too is that the 12 patriarchs ultimately they all had different gifts and talents. And so, if you read the 12 patriarchs in the Apocrypha book or the Apocrypha Bible, you will see the uniquenesses of these tribes. So, I want to encourage you grab your Apocrypha book and check that out too. Okay. Okay.
The visitor was a bobcat. The whiskers and pretty coat caught the eyes of the owls. As they saw the cat chasing down its food, they thought, can we be friends with a bobcat? The question grew in importance as the cat number started growing. At first, there was only one cat, but then two. The senior owl suggested they get to know the bobcats and see what all they desired besides food. He felt this was just the start for what was coming. Burn. Uh, but the owls didn't take heed of the wise owl and continued to be busy with their own plans. Everyone in the clan had a function to help run the town. Some were gatherers, others were hunters, many were scouts, and even some were warriors. This community had a plan to protect its people, and it worked for a long time.
So here, you see the bobcat. In nature, bobcats and owls are not necessarily the best friends. Um, they can actually be each other's prey, especially when you're talking about baby owls or baby bobcats. So both of them can control their own lane. And I think that's what's important too is that we all have our own gifts and talents. And when we see other people enter into our arena, you want to know why they're there. Not everybody is your friend, which we learn very quickly in life, but not everybody is your enemy either. And so the wise owl is telling the other owls, you may want to see what this cat is doing and don't just look at what you see them doing, but ask them questions behind why they do what they do. In our lives, you need to ask people, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? I know it might be uncomfortable to be skeptical of people. Some of us do it too well. But don't be afraid to ask questions and know the heart of the people that want to be in your life, whether it's emotionally, spiritually, romantically, or otherwise. Because not everybody has the purest of intentions, which is what the owls will learn.
Right.
Mm.
The Bobcats marveled at how smart and coordinated the owls were.
Yeah,
Coordinate the owls were. They decided to form a partnership because they saw that they could be stronger together. The Bobcats and the owls have the same diet, so they could essentially help each other to survive the upcoming frost. The only problem is that owls and cats don't have the closest relationship.
Mm-mm.
The wise owl was always skeptical of the bobcats because their nature was similar to theirs. Both populations could turn at a blink of an eye, and no one would be the wiser about who would come out on top. The wise were concerned for the young more than the mature owls, but as the owls and the bobcats filled the forest, they became more hostile to even
Mm-hmm.
the older owls.
Right. So as the bobcat started to increase in color or in size, ultimately, they started to become more aggressive, towards all of the owls, even the ones that were not normally their prey. So, like in the Hebrew story, ultimately, when the Hebrews came to Egypt, the Hebrews and the Egypts didn't really totally get along, but they weren't necessarily enemies either. They had a form of respect for each other. Yeah. And they had this land in Goshen because of Joseph. The only problem is Joseph is dead. His father, Israel, died. So a lot of the people that knew the way of the Hebrews were dying off. And when they were dying off, their children were coming up. And of course, as y'all know, Pharaoh ended up making a pact with the Hebrews to build the pyramids. And the Levites told them don't do it. And then some other tribes also told them don't build these pyramids. So not all of the Hebrews were actually on in agreement with building these pyramids. But the ones that were was like, no, this is great for our people. We can go do this instead of what we used to do, which is y'all know, they were sheep hoarders and they were farmers. They were doing all these things with the land. So they wanted to kind of like take on their version of elevated jobs. But they didn't know what that would cost them. And so yeah, so that's kind of like where we're paralleling or where I parallel this part of the story.
He thought real hard on what he could do to protect many of the young who had chosen positions within their clans. Although he warned against working with the Bobcats, and openly many of the owls suggested they should work together. We could work the area, and the Bobcats could be helpful with working the ground, said an owl. The plans they toss around sound like an equal partnership, but the wise wild felt this would end in a disaster or worse still, war. The young owls knew nothing of war but only peace. They couldn't remember a time when life wasn't pleasant, but the wise owl could. He tried to warn the others that the easy road is not always the best. Always, and how we have survived this long in the forest are the only plans we should consider. Other owls came to agree, but the younger owls, freshly in their position to lead their clans, disagreed.
Mm-hmm. So now you have the wise owls kind of honestly looking out for the younger owls or their clans because the younger leaders are not really feeling what the wise owls are saying. So now the wise owls, meaning the older owls, are having to make decisions like we have to do for our families. Sometimes the people that are in control or say they're in control are not really taking in everything that they should consider when they're making their decisions. So you might have to make a savings plan for your grandchildren because maybe their parents aren't doing it. You may have to consider getting a life insurance policy or do some of these things that is not for you. Maybe you got to step in and be a mom or a parental guardian because the ones that their parents are not necessarily performing in that way. So that's kind of the role of the wise owls in this story too. Hmm. So this is what the wise owl does.
They felt they had been working hard for nothing. They wanted to modernize the way the clan lived and felt the outdated ways could be changed without any threat to the clan. The older elders agreed with the partnership, and the wise owl answered the fear for the worst. A people divided cannot stand together, and neither can owls. He knew what he had to do. He had to protect the clans. He sent off a basket of young owls to his family across the water. He prayed for their journey on the seas and the protection. He sent two owls to look over them to give them protection. But there was little they could do with animals below the water. Prayer was the best option, and that is what they all did. So this part of the story is a nod. How you doing? This part of the story is a nod to the life of Moses, who was also, of course, born to the Hebrews. He was put in a basket by his sister. In this case, the wise owl is
implementing the plans of the sister to send the owls away for their protection so that they would later be able to redeem their clans or their people. Essence, right? Mhm.
While the baskets sail across the water, the owls and bobcats started partnering to take down rabbit holes, and other large populations gathered to hide out from the oncoming crops. The victory seemed sweet to both the bobcats and the owls. The young owls gloated about their progress and how much free time they had.
Mhm.
They didn't do their normal jobs anymore.
Nope.
They didn't see a reason to strain as they used to.
Mhm.
They grew comfortable with sharing with the cats, and soon this will be a long lasting relationship.
This is like when some people may say, "Oh, I don't need to practice to be a good athlete. I can rely on my own talent. Oh, I don't really have to study to get a good grade because I'm already smart. Or let me just partner with other people that are smart. And then for this project, I don't really have to try that hard because I can lean on them." But what happens when you take the SAT? What happens when you take the standardized test? What happens when you are quizzed on your own? What happens when you can't cheat because there's nobody to cheat off of? What happens when you get in these positions? And this is what's happening with the owls. They're benefiting off of this relationship where the owls and the cats are hunting rabbits and stuff like that together, and they're learning each other's techniques though. So as you're teaching someone else to do what you do, you may also make your way of hunting more obsolete because now they know how you move and you know how they move, unless they didn't tell you everything, right? Because not everybody going to tell you how they win in life. Even the people that sell their ideas, they're not telling you everything that they did because some people fear you being in competition with them. So this is why you also have to be able to be a critical thinker to be able to think your business into the next level, because not everybody's going to give you the whole plan. And if you think they're going to give you the exact plan you need to do, then you need to understand how business works. I hate to say it, there are good examples of good business and bad examples, right? Good business is you give people a quality product, they like it, and they keep wanting to buy it because they keep having a need for it. But for some of us, what happens if you need information, you buy the information, you go use the information? Why would you keep paying that person monthly if you already got the information you needed, unless they're what? Piecing off the information. So you're forever what? Behind them, because that's how they can keep breadcrumbing you to keep coming back to their business. So at some point, you're going to have to outthink the person that's teaching you. And the way that you do that is you have to become more resourceful. And that's what the Wise Owl is saying. Go back to learn what we were already doing. Yes, there's nothing wrong with talking to the cats, but don't get so comfortable with the cats and think that they're not your, I was not saying nemesis, but they're not your challenge, because you're both going after rabbits. Eventually, it's going to be between you and them. And so you're going to have to know how to what? Make your own business survive. There's only going to be so far another business will want to partner with your business before they'll say, okay, we're now competitors because we're too close, right? Nobody minds helping people that are lower than them. But when you start elevating, you're going to have to know that you're going to have to elevate your mentors at the same time, because you will caps out of them. Either for a positive reason, they no longer can provide the stuff you need, which is not a bad thing. Or they are no longer seeing you as a mentee, they're seeing you as a competitor, and you don't want them to sabotage you. So then you need to break away from that and you need to go find you a better mentor for where you're at now. So that's what I would suggest. I know these are loaded concepts from this book. So just so y'all know, I'm a life coach, transformational coach. I consult for business. I also write for books, of course. I have my master's in pastoral studies, doctorate in philosophy with an emphasis in theology. So all of my books bring these things into an umbrella, which is why they are not the least expensive books on the market, because all of the principles that are built in my books go way beyond that. Okay. So if you're wondering, why is this book $18? Or why is she charging $20? Not because other authors are not charging these prices, by the way, but it's because I know that the value in these books can honestly bless you, can bless your children, and can make them easy concepts to understand. So if you're wanting to use fun examples like this to teach them principles, then yes, you do want to look at a lot of my books for children specifically, because I'm all about teaching them principles on how they can outthink wherever they're at and get to where they gotta be, as times are changing. So yeah, I encourage you to check it out. Back to Jacob.
Make it the bus, y'all.
And it's authorklee.com. If you're on any other spot than like TikTok, if you're on TikTok, click the pin in the shop. You can grab this book or many other ones. If you're on Instagram, I have an Instagram and Facebook shop. You can shop there as well at author KLEE, which is my page. You can shop there.
The Bobcats say they meet in their plans seem to change as they noticed the owls had a larger population than they did and required more food than they did. The owls started to run jobs without the Bobcats to catch food. Now, they knew some of the tricks of the Bobcats to find their joint prey. It grew easier for them. The Bobcats saw this as a serious threat to their survival or comfort.
Now I know if y'all know, and when the Hebrews went to Egypt, the Egyptians started to fear what the Hebrews were capable of because their numbers started to increase, and they increased so rapidly that they now needed more food than the Egyptians needed, in essence. So now the owls need more than the cats do. And so now the cats are starting to say, wait a minute, they're now becoming our predators, or now they're our competition. So I don't want to keep, hey, boo, thank you. I don't want to keep moving like this. We gonna have to what? Outgrow this box. So now this is when the cats start getting spiteful and start turning on, thank you, and starts turning on the owls that they befriended. Y'all gonna realize people in your life, they are okay with you looking like you're beneath them. Or some of them even beside them, but it ain't gonna be long. But the moment you start elevating and going past them and start becoming resourceful, using what you're learning to do more, to do better, to get higher, that's when they're going to say, oh, you are trying to come for us, although that's not your intentions. But as you know, that's when the Egyptians decided to enslave the Hebrews because they now fear what they could do with their own power. Some of you are more powerful than your mentors. Let me say it again. Some of you are more powerful than your mentors. Some of you are going to do more than your parents. Some of you are going to be more successful than your siblings. Not everybody likes this truth. Y'all know the story of Joseph. He was called to do something, and because he was called to do something, it wasn't so that everybody gets jealous of him, although they did, but it was so that he would be able to what? Help his family, help other people, and all this other stuff. He was what? Intelligent, he was gifted, he was all these things. And some of you are too. So don't don't get down when you see people pull away from you or even turn their backs on you, because it's part of it. I hate to say it, it's part of your growth system. Okay. So if you're completely relying on a cat to go everywhere an owl goes, they're not going to be able to go. They can't fly. No matter how they can maneuver with you on the ground, they can't fly with you. Like they say, eagles are not like regular birds. So if you're an eagle, you're not going to be able to do what everybody else does. Although you can keep up with what they do, you may honestly transcend them in a lot of other ways. So allow people to roll with you where they roll with you, but allow yourself to grow even if you grow past people. Don't limit yourself to fit in a box so other people can accept you, because that's when you start breaking down your what natural gifts and talents. And now when you're going to need to pull from them, you're not going to have any strength in them because you didn't develop them. All right. So if you are a good teacher, if you are a good speaker, if you are a good cook, if you are a lot of these good things, don't throw them away because you get a job that tells you, you don't got time for none of that. Because what happens if you get a husband and he wants you to cook for him? Or, you know what I'm saying? Now you got to pick between this job and a husband, which should never be what you got to pick from. I agree. So being balanced is the key to really enjoying your life in the long run. And so now you're going back to what? Your fundamental roots. Some of the stuff your mama told you or your grandma told you. Although, yes, you've elevated and you've done things in all these spaces, it doesn't mean throw away the things that built your character on the way, right? So, yeah, so that's what the owls are getting ready to have to learn. They're going to have to go back to their roots, go back to their foundation, and realize, oh, snap, I really do need what my grandma and my mama told me. Not everything in this new generation should just replace and eliminate everything else, because when we had to get up and turn those knobs on them television sets, that told us to be patient.
Oh yeah,
When we had to move antennas to catch the signal, and if you didn't move it right, you got nothing. It told you to be patient. When you had to wait for content to come out on a weekly basis, now we can binge watch. So we don't really have that level of patience. But that's also a uniqueness about you, which makes you like the owl and the bobcat, right? Because the owls learned all the tricks of the bobcats and they had their other ones, but they started what? Forgetting their history. So don't forget your history, and you will become as they say, twice as bad or twice as good in essence. So yeah.
It was then that the young owls became fair game, and even some of the larger owls have reduced the owl population. It didn't happen quickly, but it was a gradual change that was that
That the wise.
that the wise owl and his peers noticed. He started to take inventory of the food and owls in each clan and pointed out a problem. The Bobcats claimed they saw these birds get injured and became prey for other predators, and it had no hand in their demise. I almost said the best.
Yeah.
The wise owl never believed them, and he knew he had made the right decision to have the young owl sent away earlier. The young owls had been sent away for several months now, and their training was in the old way. The ways of their ancestors and how their wise owl felt, they should live also.
So I don't know too if you know some of the elements to, like, Enoch, right? So for
Yeah.
example, this is in the Apocrypha book. Now, in the life of Enoch, Enoch was trained in the way of Shem. He was trained in the way that the Father originally designed for his people to want to live and coexist with others. So he was set apart. Some of you are going to be set apart where the Father can show you things, whether that be set apart to go to college, set apart to go to counseling. Some of us are going to go that extra mile to honestly get right within ourselves. Find your soul, find your purpose, your mission, what was lost or what was broken. And as you go through this journey, you're going to have something to bring back to your people, back to your family, back to your spouse, or back to those who honestly need you to survive, back to the people that work with you, your clientele, your partners. This is how you honestly become a valuable source to anyone's life in any regard. Is you got to understand you have value in your ancestry as well. So the baby owls that were sent away had to go learn, like Enoch had to learn to be separate, right? And so that's what honestly we can do when we go back to the roots, whether that's going back to Bible, whether that's going back to principle, whether that's going back to the morality of what we used to do. I mean, there was a time where, if you slept with a woman, you married. And if you think like that again, it would challenge you not to be what? Sleeping with everybody, because you know that this is equating to marriage. If you read the Old Testament, it's like that. You read the New Testament, it's like that. If you look at people's ancestral clans, it was like that. So not everything in history is terrible. Now, is everything in history good? No, because people were there, and there are no perfect people. But there are things that honestly were created for your protection. Even when you think about like the 40s, the 30s, the 60s, and stuff like that, there were certain things we couldn't do. You had to be modest. You had to wear dresses that covered parts. You had to be mindful of how other people perceived you. Not because you necessarily got to care about everyone's thoughts of you, but because you had to be aware of what dangers dressing or looking a certain way put you in, right? And so now these are some of the fundamental things that a lot of women don't know. So they think, oh, I can wear whatever I want to wear. But now you're seeing a lot of them being raped or having issues, right? And I'm not saying rape is right. I'm not saying clothes justifies that. But I am saying, if you know that this is a problem, then why not go back to what your mama was doing, your grandma was doing? You know what I'm saying? So we can go back into our history and find like, wow, discretion can still be cute. That classic black dress is still going to be classic even today. And you can still be just as desirable today as people were in the past. So it doesn't mean you got to throw everything away. And you can still find your own style. Nobody's making you a Mormon or a robot. No shade to Mormons if that's what you do. But yeah, there's a way to bring you into this realm. But there's also a way to protect yourself and your children with them knowing where they come from.
Teaching the history of
Yeah.
came from, He always said there is nothing wrong with good change, but to change for the sake of a change alone is not a good reason for change. We must strive to progress. The young owls didn't get it then, but soon they will be asked to return home to help fight a battle they were mentally prepared to fight and win. Another ongoing problem that was normally in the background was the limit of food. With both the ground and air predators working together, the fight for prey was getting more difficult. When a lot of the owls out of shape and not used to flying for longer distances, found their nails, sharpened their vision with activities that grew sluggish, and many become easy prey for a pack of bobcats to attack and make their food.
Let's be clear. So I want to show y'all some of the principles or concepts in this area here, right? So at the top, we're talking about making change just for the sake of change is not progress. At some point, you got to decide, look, I don't want to just keep making changes in my life. I want to transform my life.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
In the Embrace Your Crown series, the last chapter, and it says transform and go beyond change. That's in essence what I'm teaching to children. You don't want to just keep making changes for the sake of making changes, because it may not lead you to where you want to go. It's just you honestly not being stable in anything. So you want to what change that. You want to understand what you're changing to do. Are you progressing or regressing? And in their case, they were regressing through change. Not all change is what good change, and not all history is good history too. That is very true. But you got to be able to look at the facts and look at what is doing to you, to your family, to your life, and make good decisions about that. Now, in this last part, it says, basically, because the owls stopped doing what they were called to do, when you stop studying, when you stop working hard, when you stop, doing the things that you know to do to go and become resourceful, make money, keep your marriage right, talk to your spouse, whatever it is, that's when you become sluggish and you honestly don't have the what desire. You can become lazy. You can become unreliable. You can become so many things because you didn't feel like you had to do that in the beginning. And now people are telling you to do it now. And you're like, why? Why I got to do that? But it also makes you an easy prey for divorce. It makes you an easy prey for poverty. It makes you an easy prey for rejection and for a whole lot of other things. So we got to understand the same things that we did to be able to achieve are the same things you're going to have to do to continue to succeed. So if it took you studying to get your first class pass, you got to do that through your whole degree. You can't study for a few classes and think the rest of them you don't got to do it anymore. Or guess what? You'll be like the owls who fell victim to the cats.
Are we on this way?
No, next one.
Oh, I'm tripping.
Yep. We're almost done, y'all. We're getting through it.
Now, why is I knew that it was time to send back? Hey, first all we felt tripping.
I'm gonna have to definitely pull that down.
Right. Why is I knew that it was time to send back for the LC sent away months ago in hopes they could help restore the balance of the force. There was enough room and food for everyone to survive if we maintained order and respect in nature. Before the pact was made, the balance of the prey might remain constant because either could go hungry for short periods and survive.
Yeah. So in nature, as y'all know, the father is so smart. He thought about what you needed in life. He knows that you need food to survive. He knows you need shelter. He knows you need water. He knows you need all these things. And guess what? They're already in the earth. I know a lot of people will say, oh, it's a depletion. It's a depletion. No, it's not. It's just we have to stop being so stingy, perhaps. We have to be open to why there is a ecosystem. And when we start messing with stuff, thinking we know better than creation, nature, God, y'all, then we find out we're wrong, right? So in the case of these bobcats and owls that started to work together, because they were working together, they were able to kill off more prey, which may sound great, but that also meant, hey, Mr. Jerry, but that also meant that there was no longer a regulation or a balance between killing and eating things like it was before. So now the animals are getting out of shape. Now they're gluttonous, right? Some of us, when we don't know what it's like to have, Paul says, I learned to serve Yah, God, when I had plenty and when I didn't have much, when I had everything I wanted and when I needed something. So this allows him to be balanced. So he's not all the way one way or the other. He's balanced. And the key to raising healthy children, having a healthy life, is to be balanced. Yes, it's nothing wrong with having good things. He drives a BMW. He loves his car. But he also has to work for it. He also has to balance other areas of his life. He knows he has to pay the note. So there are things in our lives that we have to balance. And then as you learn to balance these things, that's how you ultimately are able to keep your life the way that the Father would want you to be, which is to be balanced.
Now both are growing fat off the land, and neither will be able to keep
Yep,
up
the
with
squirrel now are carnivores. He's right. No, he was saying, oh my goodness, like how the squirrels now are carnivores. They are, because they're out of balance. I can see it. I agree with that, by the way. There's a lot of creatures now eating meat that didn't eat meat before.
Wow. Now both are growing fat off the land, and neither will be able to keep up with the gluttony they wanted to make the norm. When the owls returned, their wingspan were mature, their eyes were sharp, their fearsome power could be felt in their wings, and they were ready to step in and lead remaining all the clans who the owls were.
Yep, they were reminding all the owls who they were. Did you show them the owl picture?
My bad, y'all.
You good? All right, Mr. Jerry. Thank you for joining us on Facebook, by the way.
The difference between the young owls who were sent away and the ones who remained was night and day. The owls who returned were smarter, confident, and filled with purpose. Their fearless nature started to remain the clan.
Yeah, remind the clan.
While they were the descendants of marvelous owls of words, various gifts, colors, abilities, they started to realize that their differences were not weaknesses or disadvantages, but the source of their power.
Yes. When you start to become comfortable in your own skin, you start to honestly embrace who you are with the positives and negatives, the challenges. That's when you start to have a coat of many colors because you have many facets to you. A child that can go through struggle, triumph, and challenge and know how to overcome or have a heart to want to still is going to be a powerful child. You want me to read this one for you? Okay, let me give you a break.
I'm about to
You almost there. You almost there. All right, here we go. As they hid in the trees and kept watch on their prey, they used the colors of the forest to work in their favor. They used the stretch of their wings, the height at which they could soar, and sharpened their nails to cause extreme discomfort. Although the bobcat might look bigger than an owl, they would not mess with a bird that was capable and intentional in defending itself. The fear of the Bobcats was for the Owls to realize that their size had nothing to do with whether they could win or lose a battle with the Bobcats. Their goal was to scare them into mentally submitting to the Bobcats, and there would be no fight at all. Some of y'all, this is what the enemy wants to do. This is what people want you to do. They want you to fold. Y'all play poker? They don't want you to play. They don't care what cards you have. They want to scare you. They will throw out bluffs, hoping that you would throw your cards down, thinking they had something better than you. This is what the grasshoppers did in the movie Ants. This is what people do to those that they want to believe are inferior. They'll teach you you're inferior so that you'll never try. It's not about you it's not about your size. And this is true to nature, by the way. Bobcats are intimidated by owls that will fight, but they're not intimidated by owls that won't fight, which is why they tend to eat baby owls because they know they won't fight back. Some of you are in trouble right now because you won't fight back. You have to start speaking up for yourself. You have to start acknowledging you have power, value, and you can be victorious. Doesn't matter where you're starting from, doesn't matter what you look like, doesn't matter what people told you. It matters what do you believe about you. Do you believe you have value? Do you believe you can do this? And if you believe you can do this, let's do this. Let's go lose the weight. Let's go, you know what I'm saying? Prepare our hearts. Let's go do what we got to do. Let's go get the degree. Who cares if it takes you 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? Where else would you be if you don't start the process now? Where are you going to be in 4 years? The same people that try to throw shade on what your little bitty business, your little bitty education, you only took 2 classes and now you better than everybody else. I'm better than I was yesterday. I'm not worried about you. That's where you're wrong. That's why people are wrong. Is they're worried about what other people think about them. Don't do that. Just say, yep, I'm better than I was yesterday. Glory be to God, or thank you, Father, or thank you. Thank yourself. So yes, the Bobcats want you to quit. And that's some people in your life too. They want you to quit without a fight. They don't want you to argue. They don't want you to speak up. They want you to be silent and just sit there and take whatever they're giving you. And that is not how you want to live your life. Sometimes you won't physically win battles. I'm not saying you will. But at the same time, if you never open your mouth, you already lost. What if you could have won? What if you could have had it right? What if you are right? What if everybody needed to hear that you were right? But you didn't speak because you allowed them to intimidate you out of your own voice. Don't let people rob you out of your voice. Yeah, you're going to learn how to use it, but how are you going to learn how to use it if you never use it? Use your voice. So some owls were smaller, but when their family came back to help them from the north, the east, the south, and the west, the owls saw their history. The bobcats did too, and they were very afraid. The owls started to be on the attack to back the bobcats out of the territories and reclaim their parts of the forest. By working together with the older owls, they were able to resurrect the traditions they thought to let die. We have to get to a point where we realize that there is value in seniors and young people. All right. Both of them need to be in what is it? Codependent on each other or interdependent because both of them are necessary to function in society. The elders have stuff young people don't know yet because you ain't experienced it yet. But when you do, you're gonna be like, thank God for so and so, or thank you, Father, for this. And I want to encourage you, don't sleep on what elders can teach you in sales, in life, in marriage. Some of them have the best experiences in marriage because they know it works. They've been doing it longer than us. So if you are struggling in an area, find somebody who is mature in that area. Titus, the book of Titus is all about mentorship. So find people that can mentor you out of a genuine heart, not people that are trying to manipulate you or control your life, but people that are setting you up for life. The younger owls learned the point of working and how to maintain history without being lost to progress. The younger owls sought to make more connections with their owl brothers and sisters across the waters to learn the skills and see how to make their size an advantage in their colors. The maturing owls started to care more about the younger owls. The wise owls were able to teach because the growing owls were prepared to listen. You have to be prepared to listen for change. Change happens because people are willing to what? Be coachable, be teachable, get information, hear that they're wrong, and do something about it. Don't just get salty, cuss people out, and get nasty attitudes. But honestly, look at how what they're telling you can honestly impact your life for the better. Okay? As the balance began to restore in the kingdom of the owls, the frost started to hit the ground. However, the cats had hoped to keep the food for their families and push the owls back further outside the forest and towards the humans. By working together, the owls were able to force the bobcats back a comfortable distance from them to have time to see them coming miles away. They learned to care for each other and not allow antics that expose the weak to be the rule of how they survive. So that's this. So you got to care about your young people. You got to care about your children. You got to care about what's teaching them. Who's teaching them? What are they learning at home? Why are they always on this program? Is it part of your purpose? Is it what you want them to know? Is it their fundamental basic? Or is it lazy parenting? Are you sluggish? Are you becoming gluttonous on television where you're like, yeah, stick them in front of the TV, they'll get it. But is that the right way? Did your mom and T do that to you? Or did she sit down with you to do your homework? I know it sucks. Sometimes we're so busy, we don't have time for children. But we got to learn to make time because that is where your legacy is. The bobcats didn't give up on controlling the owls or hunting the small owls when possible. The owls would keep an eye out for their own, and some owls saw the young bobcats as prey. The two cultures realized they couldn't work together closely, but they could respect their boundaries. They still wage war to this day, but both sides understand the law of nature and how big the force is for them both to survive, even with the hearts of those greedy to want it all for themselves. There will always be people that won't be able to understand the value of all creation, right? Yes, sharks are in the ocean. We can't go and kill all the sharks because we don't like sharks. You see what I'm saying? There are certain places in the ocean we don't need to be. And the sharks will tell us, stay out of this part of the ocean. There are places in the depths of the ocean we can't go because we can't breathe. We don't have technology to go that deep. That's a boundary. So respect the boundaries that are in nature and are in our lives because some of them are saving and they're there to protect you. Everything is not to hold back from you in the negative sense, kind of like the tree of good and evil.
Yeah.
And the father said, don't eat from this. But Adam and Eve was like, I can eat from this tree. I want to be like God. But the truth was they were already like God. And so when they ate from the tree, they learned what disobedience does. And for some of us, when we are disobedient to the things that are in position to keep us safe, we learn what that does to us too. Okay? So if we could raise bobcats and owls to be content with their little or much, to see the power and differences and the goodness of balance, maybe someday the owls and the bobcats could have an agreement that would be fair to both sides, or realize that nature has a way of making all things fair in her own seasons. So this is, of course, tapping back into the book of, or the concept of Paul, where he talks about in Romans or in Galatians, where he was saying he learned to be content with all things. And that is the end of the book, my friends. So I know we went 8 minutes over, so I am going to let you all know. Thank you for joining us today to read Owls and Cats. In this book, I ultimately will be teaching some of the fundamental messages you heard. Yes, they go beyond the words of the book, but the principles are there. So I encourage you to play this video back. Go to YouTube where all the videos stay up permanently. I know a lot of platforms like Facebook, they delete. TikTok, you can't see the the replays for a live. But go to YouTube, watch this over, get this book, share it with people you know, because the book is more than just a book. All right, it's principles, it's helpful techniques, it is coaching. A lot of people say, Crystal, I want you to coach me, or I need your help. The books are how I coach people. Okay, you get the books. I teach on the books for free in these live platforms.
Once y'all get the book, read it. What's the point of buying the book? You ain't gonna read it.
I will agree to that.
That's
You got to read these books, and when you read them, you'll be like, "Oh, that's what that means. Oh, that's what that means." I mean, I teach a lot of things from spiritual foundations to social constructs to how to start a business to how to write a book. Like all of these things that I've learned to do, I teach you how to do them. And no, you don't have to hire me as a publisher or as a consultant. You can take these books. I can coach you if you want me to. If not, take them and implement the information in your families because this is how we change the world. My goal is to see families blessed and all that good stuff. And I've been really, really blessed to where, you know, one of the things I do want to share, one of the things I told the Father, I said, Father, if you bless me to where I don't have to work for money, whatever ministry you want me to do, I'll do. So if that's writing books and I don't care about how much money I make, if that is coaching and I don't care how much money I make, or whatever it is, wherever he wants me to go, if it's going to churches, if it's going to buildings, schools, I will do that because I don't want to have to work for that. Do y'all know he did it? I don't have to work for money anymore. I don't work for money. I never really did. I was never motivated by that. I was motivated by purpose. And when you're motivated by purpose, the Father will bring people and resources and things into your life. And yes, for some of us, it will be through marriage. Me is partly in that way. Marriage definitely is changing my life. And there's a lot of things I used to have to do. I don't do anymore. Now I don't have to worry about, paying rent or a mortgage and all. I don't pay any of those bills anymore. So it allows me to reinvest in books, in people, in things. And so, this is what the Father does. He is a good God who is capable of great gifts. So if you've been wondering, well, I don't know, God, if I can ask for that. That's what the enemy wants. Let me go back to that. When the Bobcats,
you have not because you ask not.
When the Bobcats try to intimidate the Owls to not fight at all so that they can take everything they wanted, that's what the enemy wants you to do. So spiritually, mentally, socially, there are some people that physically represent this concept, that those that might be going through domestic issues or, saying things like that, they don't want you to fight back because if you start fighting back, it'll start making them think how they approach you. And if they're going to approach you at all, some people will back all the way up. The moment Tina Turner decided to fight Ike, that was the last fight. But as long as she was willing to take his abuse, his threats, his nasty ways, she was subject to that for years. And some of you are subjecting yourself to years and decades of defeat, and you're teaching your children to do the same thing. Don't teach them not to have their voice. Teach them to use their voices. Teach them it's okay to be wrong sometimes, but at least try to be progressive. Learn from your mistakes though. Don't just be ignorant, You want to learn from your mistakes. And as you do that, you'll find success in ways you never thought possible. And so that's what I wanted to encourage y'all to do with this book, with many books that I published, but definitely this one. If you like it, you can click on the pin, grab it in TikTok Shop, or go to my website, authorklee.com. And with that, we are going to be shutting down the book club for this week, and we'll be back next week, either at 7 or 7:30. Sometimes we start early, depending on how many books we want to get through or how much we got to go, and stuff like that. Somebody said, "You church?" I'm not. You mean do I go to church? I do go to church. Yes. I do minister at churches. And I take invitations when the Father tells me to. So yeah, so if you do want to invite me to speak at your church or organization, let me know. I speak for both platforms and I would love to discuss it. All right. So Father, in the mighty name of Yeshua, we say thank you for giving us today. Thank you for allowing us to meet with you in this deli to be able to show the world about how good and faithful you are. Thank you for restoring what the palmer worm and cankerworm stole from us. Thank you for restoring our mind and our confidence in you and teaching us that we are more than conquerors because of what you do and have already done through us. Thank you for your promises that are true, that are assured, and that you are faithful. Thank you, Father, for teaching us who you are through the things you teach us through your word, through your Bible, but even through our own testimonies and even natural representation of order that you've established. Thank you for being higher than our ways. Thank you for showing us that what we may know to do by nature or by circumstance or by how we were raised doesn't have to be how we live forever if we are willing to take your hand and allow you to teach us how to be great. Father, teach us how to be great in our families, with our emotions, with our minds, with our thoughts about ourselves and others. Help us to improve our relationships with you, with other people, with ourselves. And Father, allow us to start businesses, be successful in them, and teach us that money isn't everything. Although it is a tool to the things we may need to do for ourselves or other people, we don't want to work to worship it. We want to respect you and allow you to bless us and show us how to be good stewards over all of our resources, which also includes our money. So it's in the precious name of Yeshua that we say Jesus the Christ, that we say hallelujah, and it is so. So be it. All right, y'all. May y'all have a phenomenal week. And Lord's willing, I'll see you here next week, Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern or 7:30, y'all. So if y'all don't see us at 7, we're going to be on at 7:30. All right. We love y'all, and I'll be back with another book, and I'll announce the book for September too. We are doing a chapter book for September.
Abort Me Not.
Abort Me Not is a book I'm writing. So,
Right now?
well, no, I ain't started yet. So, Abort Me Not is a book that I'm going to be dedicating to those that have dealt with the topic of abortion, whether they've had to have one, maybe they didn't have no choice, maybe you lost the baby, maybe you're a father and the girl aborted, maybe the mom did, maybe it's a miscarriage. So many things are happening. And so I wanted to write a book for those that honestly should have been aborted, but somebody stepped in on their behalf. I should have been aborted. My mom was told to abort me, but thank the good Lord she didn't do that. So I'm a testament of why maybe you don't want to abort what you don't know, because you may not see the value, but that doesn't mean Father don't see the value. You might see it as a mistake or as a problem or as a challenge or as a, you know what I'm saying, a setback. But I want to let you know that there is a God that is good for you, that will show you, make a way out of no way. You know, some of us will give our children up for adoption, and that comes with its own set of challenges. But at the same time, even those that were put up for adoption, I want to encourage you that the Father is able to love you through this challenge. If you don't feel loved, or if you do feel like a castaway, it's an honest thing to feel. But I want to show you how the Father can still be present even in these challenging moments. And if you are debating on if you should have an abortion, I definitely want you to read the book. I'm definitely going to talk about it more since he's bringing it up. I'm early. But yeah, so I'll talk about that probably on another live throughout the week. And if that is something that will bless your families, please put it in the comments or send me a direct message, whether it's to my inbox, because sometimes the DMs don't show up on all platforms depending on how they record. So if you send me a direct message, like, yeah, in my box, do that, please. And then I'll know that this is something that people are in need of, and I will definitely respond. Okay. So I love y'all. Until next week, me and Jacob are saying bye-bye for now.
Yes.
And yeah, if y'all got comments or things y'all want to share with us or books you may want us to consider, let me know, and I will do that too. All right. Anything else?
No,
This book is coming out soon. He says January for his birthday, but he's lying. It'll be out this year, I'm sure. So we're gonna see y'all.
Yeah, it's almost done. It's like 94% done.
All right. So he's writing. My job is I'm a publisher, by the way, y'all. So if y'all wondering how do I know all these things, I am publishing this book for him. I do help people publish books, the whole process. So if you need that kind of help, you can DM me and I will get you some more information on how I can help you to write and publish, edit, all that format, all that good stuff, your books, and get it out and do what the Father told you to do. All right. So if I can bless you, let me know. And yeah, we'll go from there. Till then, bye-bye from now, y'all.
For now.
Okay. Oh, you okay?